According to an article published by the National Law Review in mid-October, by April of 2020, the interest in divorce had increased by 34%, with newer couples being more inclined to be interested in divorce. Furthermore, 20% of newlywed couples married 5 months or less were also seeking divorce, which is up from 11% in 2019. Kelli Calabrese is a certified divorce coach who helps people through the grief of divorce, separation, and past divorce in order to live an amazing bonus life. She joined me this week to have a discussion about the impact of pandemic divorce and how couples can thrive both personally, professionally, and spiritually after separation. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Kelli, if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the program. And I'm excited to chat with you all about the pandemic and how you help people overcome divorce. Great to see you this morning, and thank you so very much for being here.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Kevin.
Absolutely. Now, Kelli, I know that part of your good work has to do with helping people sort of navigate divorce. And, the pandemic has caused a lot of stress and anxiety for a lot of people. And when you add divorce on top of that, that can certainly compound the issue of going through a divorce. So I'm just wondering your general thoughts on the pandemic and how divorce enters into the equation.
Yes, Kevin, you're absolutely right. The pandemic did add a tremendous amount of stress and strain. There was so much unknown, there was so much fear, things that couples had never been through before, like having to homeschool children or unexpectedly losing a job, health concerns, maybe having college kids come home or having to, care for someone who had COVID. There were an incredible amount of strain that a lot of new couples had never been through before. So we're seeing higher divorce rates for younger people versus, if you've been married 25, 35, 40 years, you've been through some stuff and you might be able to weather the storm a little better. But when you take couples and you put them together who maybe didn't have a great foundation to start with, it just adds a tremendous amount of strain. So we're seeing a lot of newer married couples that are filing for divorce.
Yeah, that's certainly unfortunate. And, Kelli, I know that you also help couples sort of navigate through it to live an increased bonus life. So I'm wondering if you can share what are the keys to successfully navigating that divorce and living what you call a bonus life.
It's a great question, Kevin. My heart is always to help someone to save their marriage first, if that's possible, if it's safe, if it's healthy to do that. But if it's just not possible, or they come to me after they're already divorced, one of the first things that we work on is really their identity. Because when someone gets married, their identity is in being a husband or a wife. And now that role has changed. And so they need to really shift in their mind who they are as a whole person without things in the world. Maybe your neighborhood changed. Maybe you had to change jobs, churches, friend groups. Maybe you don't drive the same car anymore. So just really getting them to have an identity and who they are without the things of the world as a person, to really take a deep dive into loving themselves. I also work on them with forgiveness because we know that things like bitterness and defensiveness, anger, all that fear and hurt and rejection that comes along with divorce and shame, we work through that as well. And forgiveness is a part of it and has a lot to do with self-forgiveness because a lot of us just feel like a failure and we want to kind of punish ourselves and feel like a victim for a while. I also talk to them about gratitude because it is a superpower. So even though they didn't have the story that they thought they would, I help them to still find out, what's great about this situation and how can they be in good health and create a future that they can be excited about. So we talk about, having a prosperity mindset and so on.
Fabulous. And Kelly, I've been waiting all weekend to ask you this question, so here it goes. When we talk specifically about children and navigating that part of the divorce puzzle, I'm wondering your thoughts on how important it is for the divorcing couple to still work as a unit to make sure that their children still have a opportunity to thrive.
Yeah, as you can imagine, Kevin, it is the most important thing for couples who are getting divorced. They really do need to put the children first and not be selfish, but think about their needs. The kids didn't ask for this. They always desire for their parents to be together, regardless of what age they are. If they're too little to really understand, or even if they're grown in their 30s with their own kids. So each person is going to handle it differently, but you do want to set the child up for success. You want to sit down as a family if possible and have a conversation with them, let them know that they're loved and, this is not their fault and that they will always be loved. And if the parents can work it out amicably, if they're co-parenting younger children, that obviously is the most excellent. What kids don't want is to be a pawn between their kids, between the parents of here, take your dad his mail, or tell your dad I got, his doctor called, that kind of stuff. They don't want to be your messengers. They don't want to hear you speak badly about their parent. So you really have to be careful because you're hurting and you're going through your own deep sadness and grief and anger and bitterness, and your children are watching you. So you need to make sure you have healthy outlets yourself, go to counseling, get a divorce coach like myself, have good friends that you can speak to so that the kids don't wind up getting the worst of you, the least of you, the last of you. But it becomes about quality time with them more than quantity because you may have them half the time. So the statistics for divorced kids are not great. Obviously, they have things like higher suicide rates. They have teenage pregnancy, drop out of school. But it doesn't have to be that way if you continue to love the kids unconditionally through it and set them up for success as best as possible by trying to keep their world as normal as possible. So if they don't have to change schools or friends, if they can stay in a sport, if they have some outlet, whether it's church or something that helps them to feel like there's some normalcy in their world.
Normality is important, isn't it?
It is, yes, especially for kids.
And when we first began our conversation this morning, Kelly, you talked about wanting to cultivate a safe marriage if you can, if at all possible. So I'm wondering, on the other side of the spectrum, when people come to you and say, I don't want to get a divorce, but my marriage needs work, what's the first thing you work on with couples?
Yeah, I definitely, usually one person will come to me. So I will work on that one person because whether they stay married or get divorced, they still need to be the best version of themselves. So they need to be able to hold up the mirror and say, wow, where am I missing it? Because it's never 100% your spouse and 0% you. There's something that you're doing that needs to be corrected. Even if you get divorced, you don't want to bring it into the next relationship. So maybe you're controlling, maybe you're a perfectionist, maybe you're an enabler. You have to go back and really figure out the way the person is, and then start to work on correcting that through forgiveness, and looking at what can I do to make things better because I don't have a good result in my life in this area. So I work with the person, and when they become a better version of themselves and now they're more free and they're happier and they're healthier and they're making great choices, there are times where it changes the relationship. I've had it happen several times where, now they're years later happily married, and it was because I worked with one person on some of the things in her relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes self perspective is powerful, isn't it?
Absolutely. We all need that.
Absolutely, in every aspect of our life, absolutely. And Kelly, I'm also curious to ask you about people that come to you that are divorced and want to start a healthier or with a fresh slate with a new relationship. You talked about working on the individual person, but I'm also curious to ask you about starting anew for people that want to work with you in terms of cultivating a more healthier relationship the second time.
You ask great questions, Kevin. I love this. So, yes, I mean, when you're in so much pain after a divorce, everyone is going to do something to feel well because the pain is so great. So, some people do rush back into the arms of another person, and I do not recommend that at all. In fact, when I was going through my divorce, my counselor said to me, Kelly, please wait at least 2 years before you get remarried. And it's been 3.5, and I haven't even been dating yet. So I certainly didn't rush back into it. But you need to be at peace. You need to feel whole. You need to be going into a relationship for the right reasons, not because you're needy, not because you want, someone to be a warm body or maybe pay your bills, but you need to be going in knowing your core values. So, for me, things like trust and integrity and faith and having good things in their life. I mean, at this stage of their lives, hopefully they're doing well professionally, they have good relationships, they take care of their health. So I'm looking at all of those things, knowing no one is perfect, knowing I can't go in trying to change anyone. So, for example, one of the deal breakers for me is if they were a smoker. I'm someone who values health. So I can't go, well, everything is pretty great, but he smokes. I'll get him to quit smoking. That's not going to happen. So you have to go into it knowing they're showing their true colors. So within a date or two, you can probably figure that out with most people. There may be some red flags that are just a deal breaker for you. Maybe it's important to you to have someone who's touchy feely and tender, and this person checks a lot of the boxes, but they're just not affectionate at all. And you have to decide, is that something that I want to go down the road 3 months, 6 months, a year, and find out that I can't live with that. So I think the more you know what you're looking for, the better off you'll be and not waste a lot of time and have a lot of heartbreak for either one of you.
Yeah, and sometimes taking some time before you go back out onto the dating market is healthy, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I recommend being alone, but not lonely. So for me, for example, Sundays were hard for me because that was always a big family day. And I'd go out on a Sunday and I'd see all these couples and families together, whether it's at a restaurant or grocery store, church. And it was just hard for me. So I stayed in on Sundays and I used the day to read and meditate and journal and be outside in nature and, maybe do something with a girlfriend. But it took me a while to be okay with that. And now I don't even really notice it anymore, but it was just so glaring to me. It seemed like everywhere I looked, it was just couples in love holding hands. And so you need to work through that stuff to get to a healthy place where you're renewing your mind to really release the past and get present, and also, get excited about a future where you can envision yourself in a relationship that's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelly, I know that you've also written three successful books, so I'm wondering if you can tell me what's been your overriding message you hope to convey through your written work as well.
Yes, my message is always going to be lined up with being healthy. I want people to be healthy in all areas of their life, physically, financially, emotionally, relationally, socially, professionally. And life is hard and there's going to be struggle and difficult things. Rejection is a normal part of life. Most of us are not trained up in how to handle rejection. When something bad comes our way, it knocks us down. And sometimes we don't get back up for a while. And when you get knocked down 10 times, sometimes it's hard to get up that 11th time. But my books are really to give hope and to share stories about ordinary people who difficult things happen to, and they decided not to be a victim, but to get back up and really be courageous and to do something extraordinary with that difficulty and really make a difference, not only for their own lives, but for other people. Because we're not just here for our own life. We're here to connect and serve and love other people. Oh, Kevin, you're muted.
Yeah, I was. Sorry about that. I know the other part of your life, Kelli, has a lot to do with fitness and nutrition. And just a little bit about myself. You know, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. So fitness and nutrition for me also is very important. So I'm wondering what role it plays in your life as well.
Oh my goodness. Well, it was really the center of my life for my entire life until I really, for me, moved faith to the center. But it's always been the vehicle that I have used to just lead a life of, excellence and achieving and love. I get up every single morning and I have a morning routine that sets my day up for success. So I am meditating. I am doing gratitude. I exercise every single morning, 7 days a week, using a variety of things from strength training to yoga to, outdoor bike riding. And I'm a big fan. I still work with clients, helping them with their fitness. And there's so many statistics that show that people are healthier. They just fare better in life. They earn more money, they live longer, they have less medical bills, less downtime, they have a more healthy outlook. So our bodies are designed to move every day. And, same thing with sleep. That's a big part of our life. So healthy sleep, hydration, mostly with water. I drink a gallon of water every day. And nutrition, those are, the biggest components, getting the most nutritional value for every morsel that passes your lips, whether, solid or a beverage, is to just nourish the body that we have so that we can feel great and live longer, stronger, energetic, vibrant years.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelli, I'm also wondering your thoughts on the keys to living a fulfilling and rewarding life, because, I always say that everyone's portrait of success is different. So I'm wondering if we can tap into what's the definition for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, if I had to roll it into one thought, it would be to let love win. That's always the barometer or the lens that I look through in life. I really want the most excellent outcome. So I walk around carrying as much peace as possible. My peace is just too expensive to give up. So I love for people to be unoffendable, quick to forgive, to just have their hearts filled with peace. So for me, again, my faith has been the center of everything that I do. And, it allows me to go out and not judge people because I don't want to be judged either. It allows me to go throughout my day without fear. I don't worry about what's happening in the government on a day-to-day basis that doesn't affect me. So I don't let fear come in and paralyze me. I still get up and live and just kind of submit myself to the day of what is the best possible thing that I can do today. And I go out and encourage others and really celebrate the life that we're given, because we're only given today and it's precious.
Yeah, life is way too short to listen to the white noise all the time, isn't it?
Yes.
And Kelli, I also know that you work with people to try and get them out of out of the rut that they are in life. So how do you, for anyone listening to this, I'm curious to get your thoughts on how do you think people can work to get out of the rut that they may be in life?
Yeah, again, great question, Kevin. So the very lowest level of energy, because we all are energy, is that place of a victim mindset where you feel like the world is happening to you and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's okay maybe to feel that way for a moment if something happens, because terrible things happen. There's car accidents and, there's just terrible things. So you might feel that way for a moment, but we don't want people to stay there. The highest levels of energy are that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. And the tipping point to go from victim to the highest levels of love is courage. So I really teach people, how do you get the courage to get back up again? And you need to be vulnerable to do that. So you need to be willing to peel back the layers and open up and admit your fears and face them and begin to think more positively. One of the first things I have my clients do is, how can we reduce the stress? Because when you're in a place that you're so stressed out and things seem so chaotic, it is not the place to make any decisions, and you're just not effective. I mean, even in the military, one of the first things that they teach our soldiers is you need to calm down in a time of chaos. So getting them to do things to reduce stress and rest. I also ask them, what do you need to stop doing? Because there's things that you do when you're in that stuck, stopped place that you need to stop. And even if it's not the big thing, pick one thing that if you stopped doing that, you'd be better. So maybe you're drinking a bottle of wine every night and you're committed to drinking half a bottle. Great. Let's start there. Or maybe you shouldn't stay up all night watching TV and then sleep till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, good. Start going to bed an hour earlier. So getting them to stop something a lot of times opens up the space then to start doing something new. And your body, your mind, and your spirit is so amazing that when you start to take steps in the right direction, momentum starts to build. So demonstrating small acts of courage can build up to bigger acts of courage, and then they have success that they can stand on, and that helps to build their resilience, and they learn from that, and they start to accept challenges in a healthier way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelli, my final question for you this morning has to do with your own personal and professional legacy and how you might want that to be defined.
Yes, yeah. I would love for people to really get free from shame and guilt and rejection and just to step out boldly, encourage, just living from a place of forgiving and not judging people. Everyone has a plan and a purpose on their life. I love to help them find that and then with them create a vision for what their future can look like so that they are encouraged and they do have hope, and that they don't let the hardness and the difficulty and the struggle of the world keep them down, but they learn to have a life that they can celebrate and they can acknowledge their successes and really reflect on things in a positive way. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Kelli, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can accomplish that goal?
Yeah, Kevin, I would love if your audience actually emailed me. I answer every single email. It's Kelli with an I at Kelli Calabrese, CALABRESE.com. And I would love to know, what challenges they're facing, or maybe something they heard on this podcast that made them want to write in, that inspired them, or a place they could use help. And then I do have a website, kellicalabrese.com. Facebook, LinkedIn is all my name. It's pretty easy to find me. And if they're a woman who has gone through divorce or is going through separation and divorce, I have a free private Facebook group where I really pour a lot into the ladies there. It's called Intentionally Fabulous. That's on Facebook. And, we talk about the hard things and we encourage each other and we laugh and help people move forward.
Fantastic. Well, Kelli, I have to tell you, you're the last podcast interview for the year for me. So I want to wish you all the best this holiday season. And I want to thank you this morning for joining me and engaging me in conversation. I really respect the work that you do to help people navigate divorce, health, and fitness. And I want to thank you for being here this morning. It's most appreciated.
Well, thank you, Kevin. It was my pleasure, and have a great holiday season as well.